It is so hard to find a car with real personality these days, and if that's something that's important to you, you're gonna love this Mini Countryman. This Countryman was completely overhauled recently, and it's brimming with all of the cheeky fun stuff that the brand has become really well known for. This SUV is drastically different from the one that came before it and is better because of it. This Mini surprised me in so many good ways.
For more expert car reviews, don't forget to share our channel and subscribe so you can catch some of this and maybe even a little of that.
One thing that didn't surprise me is how much fun this Mini is to drive. And that's really impressive because this isn't the little zippy hot hatch 3-door. This is quite a big SUV. So the fact that Mini managed to instill that fun mini go-kart energy into this larger SUV is really impressive. So not only does it handle really nicely, it's also quite comfortable. Although I will say it rides a little bit more harshly than maybe another SUV in this class, but I think it pays off because it handles so well. So under the hood is a turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. It has 241 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. All-wheel drive is of course standard, and there is a 7-speed automatic dual-clutch transmission. And honestly, everything works together really smoothly and very intuitively. And that's a lot of that BMW coming through. You know, they're masters at powertrain engineering, and it really shines for being so well-rounded and very well put together. And it's just so fun and zippy. You know, you have lots of passing power. It sounds surprisingly good. And I love this Mini because it just feels so much more willing to change directions and dart around, more so than almost any other SUV it competes with. And I really love to see that because it's just a joyful experience. I also just love how zippy it is. Whether you're cruising on the highway or you're just darting in and out in the city, it feels really manageable. It doesn't feel as big as it looks. And when I first got in here, I was cackling to myself because it truly felt like I was in a video game, like I'm driving some kind of cartoon or a toy. And that's just something you don't get in other cars. It's just so much fun. It has so much personality. A couple things to take note of. It does ride a little bit more harshly than other SUVs in its class, but to me, I actually think it's worth it because the payoff and how well it handles is very obvious. So that's totally fine by me. Another thing that I'm maybe not so fond of is this A-pillar is so thick and so chunky, combined with that big side mirror. It just creates such a big blind spot that is really good at hiding people in crosswalks. So just be extra careful when you're driving around the city. But besides that, everything about the driving experience in the Mini is top-notch. Style-wise, I think Mini also killed it with the redesign of this Countryman. So it's a lot more squared off than it used to be, but it's still immediately recognizable as a Mini. It's got great proportions. The wheels are pushed out as far as they can go, so there's very little overhangs on both sides, which makes it look sporty and aggressive all at the same time without losing that trademark cuteness that Mini is so well known for. I really like the more octagonal shape of the grille. I love the fact that you can customize the look by adding the dual color floating roof and the mirror caps, especially in this metallic gold. I just think it looks fantastic, and it is definitely one of the most stylish, personality-driven SUVs out there right now. So the last time I drove a Mini, I gotta be honest, I absolutely hated it. Like, it was fun to drive, but it was an ergonomic mess. Like, it was just so difficult to live with day to day. But with this Countryman, I'm really happy because Mini has made huge strides in how user-friendly everything is. And that means it's easier to live with day to day. So for example, there is a lot of small storage cubbies in here, and I think that's great. The side door pockets are big enough to store a water bottle. There's a lot of little cubbies to put stuff, which is fantastic. I also really love that they took a very EV-like minimal approach with the interior. And so one of the things you'll notice first off is that there's no gauge cluster in front of the driver, and that's a very EV thing to do. all your information is centralized in this huge circular screen, which is really a center point of the entire interior here, and I think it looks great. It takes a little bit of getting used to, you know. Luckily, the model I'm driving has a head-up display that puts some more important information in front of the driver, like speed limits, your current speed, your fuel gauges, and all that stuff. So it still manages to be very user-friendly. One thing to note is that if you prefer Mini's fun little toggle switches, they still have a couple of them for things you use the most. Like for example, there's an experience switch, and what it does is it kind of changes the mood of the interior. So, you know, you can have something more calming, or you can have a go-kart mode, which is basically like a sport mode. And I just think those little details are so much fun. I personally prefer when there's a lot more physical buttons to use, especially for stuff like climate control. I just find that when everything is centralized in a touchscreen, it just takes a little bit too long to find what you're looking for. And when you're driving, it's really important to obviously keep your eyes on the road as much as you can. And every second, a lot of stuff can happen when you're driving. So anything that expedites the process of finding a function or a button, anything that makes it faster is always going to be good. But I still really like what Mini has got going on here. This system looks super modern, very stylish. It's very fast to react. You just need to have a little bit of an adjustment period when you're looking for menus and stuff. That stuff might take a little bit, but once you get the hang of it, it is just such a cool looking system, and I really like using it. Another big improvement is that it finally comes with wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and it's actually integrated really well too. So if I'm using Google Maps on Android Auto, I can see the navigation instructions in the head-up display, and that's really nice because it means less flipping back and forth in the actual touch screen, and that just makes it more user-friendly and practical. Another way Mini has made huge strides in practicality is that it's physically larger than it used to be, so there is more room for passengers and for cargo. So Mini says that there is 25% more cargo room now than there used to be, and that's fantastic to see. The trunk is huge. The rear seats can also fold flat in a 40-20-40 pattern, so the middle part can fold down independently, which is great because that means you can still put stuff in the middle like skis or wood or something, and still have room for 4 adults. And there's enough room in the back, even with a tall person in the front. So in general, made huge strides. It's way more livable than it used to be, way more user-friendly. And like I said, it's not perfect, but it is definitely headed in the right direction. So I absolutely love how personality-driven Minis are inside as well. So first of all, the design in here, it feels very warm and inviting and stylish and modern. I absolutely love this fabric trim that they're using on the door panels and on the dashboard. Not only does it look very cool, it is also made out of recycled polyester. And that's definitely the direction that more automakers should be going, you know, keeping that sustainability in mind. And I think it's really fun in here, you know. They have ambient lighting that's customizable. Everything is very customizable to suit your mood or your style. And I just think that's really cool. And I did really want to talk about just one thing that I thought was absolutely hilarious. So most cars these days, most high-end cars anyway, nowadays come with kind of a personal assistant where you can say something like, oh, it's too hot in here, and it'll respond in some like creepy robot voice. The personal assistant in this Mini is just a cute little cartoon dog named Spike. And I just love that because it's just so cute, and it has no reason to be, it has no purpose except to make you smile. And truly, Mini is the only automaker doing that, and I love them for being so silly. Hey Mini, it's too hot in here.
Temperature decreased.
That's so cute. And all Minis come standard with a huge amount of safety stuff, which is always nice to see. Stuff like blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist. And for the first time ever, there's also a hands-free driving assistant where you could set the adaptive cruise control and actually take your hands off the steering wheel at speeds of up to 60 kilometers an hour. So personally, I would like to see that speed increased a little bit so it would be a little bit more helpful during long highway drives. But I think for stop and go traffic, that really helps as well. So that's really nice to see. So pricing wise, this Mini Countryman S All4, which is the huge long name for it, starts at around 46 grand plus about 2,500 for destination. The one I'm driving has a whole bunch of options included, and that brings up the as tested price to over 56,000 bucks, which initially might seem a little bit expensive, but you got to remember that Mini has positioned itself as kind of a quasi-premium brand, and the fact that it shares a lot with a BMW X1 kind of helps justify that price. Plus the build quality is really nice, and it does feel like it's worth the money. And for those of you who want something a little bit more sustainable, there's also a fully electric Countryman available now that costs around 60 grand. I think it's great to have both options. And honestly, all things considered, I think those prices are very fair for what Mini is offering. You cannot find a SUV out there that is this much fun and will just delight you with all the little details. So great job, Mini. To recap, I like the Mini Countryman's fun driving dynamics, unique style, and delightful details. I'm not a huge fan of the infotainment interface or that huge blind spot. What impressed me most about this Mini is that it instantly put me in such a good mood when I started driving it. I just loved being surprised by all these delightful little features, and I love that Mini manages to be so silly in a way that other automakers can't, while at the same time being super practical. I just love how Mini leans into its quirkiness.